Hey, everybody, welcome to the AMP session. Today we are joined by the legend himself, Tim Hosking, coming out of the Copper Coast. Tim, welcome to AMP.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Rob.
I I just want to get a feel. So we'll have agents here or watching the replay that have no idea what the Copper Coast is all about. So tell
Okay.
us a little bit about the Copper Coast and what makes that part of the world really special.
So the Copper Coast is originally was known as the Copper Triangle. It's three major towns, Kadina, Moonta, Wallaroo. We're about an hour and 40 minutes or so out of Adelaide to the northwest. Because of the coastline, which is really beautiful, and the lifestyle that's offered, it sort of dropped the triangle and it became one region called the Copper Coast. Um, it originally was a mining area back in the late 1800s. The Wombats discovered copper in a paddock down a Warren hole, and it actually, at its peak of growth, it had more people going to church there on a Sunday with all the Cornish than what there was going to church in Adelaide at the same
Wow.
time. So there was massive growth in the area. They no longer mine copper, but it's part of a World Heritage thing that they're doing in one part of one of the towns. So yeah,
Uh,
it's a and the three towns are close enough, sort of 15, 20 k's between them, that you can commute and look after the region very well. But also, no one town provides everything. Each town has its own intrinsic sort of advantages and lifestyle and feel. And with that, you get people get attracted to the different towns for different reasons.
I want to get into your story, but now that we're here,
Yeah.
what's the type of properties that you're selling? Is it large, small, acreage,
Yeah,
full?
and we pretty well cover most things. So we can go from a miner's cottage that I'm selling for, say, I don't know, 130 or 140,000, and doing all the same work as you do for a $2 million property in the Wallaroo Marina with water frontage and pontoons. So we've got the full gamut. And there's acreage properties, just set a new record in Kadina for a $1.2 million home on acreage there, and Kadina's never had a property above that before. So yeah, it's yeah, you got the whole cross section of properties and
Oh,
buyers.
is there a way? Let me make a phone call.
Hold on, let me just get this person on mute. Perfect. Um, that's so interesting. What strikes me straight away, Tim, is that the knowledge that you have to be able to bounce between a miner's cottage, water,
Yeah,
acreage, all the
yeah.
questions you've got to
There
ask,
was
and
a client that settled on a property going back probably 18 months or so ago, and she said in the review on realestate.com, the comment was, Tim made us feel like we just bought our own personal castle
yeah,
because it was so special to them, but it was only $170,000 home.
yeah,
But for them, it was their treasure.
yeah,
And if you have that view that everyone's buying what they require at the level that they're at, well, they're all special.
yeah, yeah. And sometimes we get in transaction mode and
Yeah.
we forget that this is someone investing a lot of
Mm.
money, you know.
And regardless of the value it is to them.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. Tim, let's get back into the Tim Hoskins story. And
sure.
you told me yesterday you've been in real estate off and on for 30 years.
Yeah.
How did you get started? What prompted you to
So,
get into real
so I'm
estate?
originally an electrician from Wireless Steelworks. I kept studying. I moved on. Um, I've got an advanced diploma in electrical engineering, hydraulics, pneumatics, robotics, automation, all that sort of stuff. But my eldest daughter has a disability, so I, being in real estate, gives me the freedom to support her without working a 9 to 5 job or traveling away FIFO. Um, I was working for a welding company in Adelaide and driving all over as a service tech, but also doing sales out of the back of my van. And one Wednesday afternoon, as I walked through the workshop, the boss walked past and said, "So when are you finishing up?" I thought, well, I didn't know I'd just been given notice. And he said, "Oh, no, no, you got a job here for life." He said, "But, mate, we can't pay you what you're worth. You ever thought of getting into real estate?" I know nothing about real estate. I was
Yeah.
probably 20. So that was 30 years ago. Okay. And so I went past a local TAFE college and had a chat with them. They referred me to another TAFE. I rang them, spoke to them about the cost, and went, well, I can't do that. I didn't even got the money for that. And then on Sunday at church, after the service, the senior pastor came up and said, Tim, I need to introduce you to someone. He introduced me to a guy by the name of Eric Pelve. And Eric, he said, nice to meet you, Tim. I've heard a bit about you. And I said, well, what's all this to do with you? He goes, well, I'm a real estate agent. I thought, are you kidding me? Okay. So here is my boss is telling me now that my pastor's telling me, and then that afternoon I drove back out to the Copper Coast where my in-laws were, and I sat down with my father-in-law. We're chatting through, and he said, so real estate, eh? I said, yeah. So I'm going to have all these months off work with no income. This is what it's going to cost me. I've got this.
Sounds great.
It's somewhere down the track it might happen, maybe. And he went off to his office, came back with a check that was filled out for the full amount, and said, here, don't cash it if you're not going to do it. And
Wow.
so, yeah, rest was history.
That's amazing, and such an interesting
Yeah,
uh start to
yeah.
the
You
story.
know you're in your slot when the big fella's telling you, hey,
Yeah,
you need to make a change.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And for those that don't know you, because you're fairly new to EXP, just tell us a little bit about the kind of
Mm.
volumes that you're selling, because I know you're high, like
Okay.
you do a lot of volume, and
Yeah. So
just to get a background for that.
yeah, over the last 10 years with my previous employer, generally around the 60 to 80 properties a year. For the last 3 years, I've been doing since COVID 90 through to last year was 116 for the year. But it's volume based because we're not in the metro where we're selling $3 and $4 million properties. If you're not doing volume, well, you're not making a
Yeah.
great income, especially on the splits, commission splits. That was totally different with EXP. Of course, you can have more control over on who and how and your process, which is, I mean, that's one of the major attractions initially for me towards EXP.
Yeah, no, that's good. And I want to get into the mechanics a little bit about how you do business and that kind of stuff. But take us back to when you started in real estate,
Mm,
some of those early days when you thought,
yeah,
oh,
yeah.
this is gonna be easy, or maybe you didn't think that, but
Oh,
like
yeah. No,
how did
I
it
never.
start out?
Yeah,
Tell us about
I
some of
never
those
thought it
first
was going to be easy. The guy sitting next to me was a Norwood footballer, which is a sample here, and we were told to come on. I can still remember the Thursday we'd rock up with all the names of people we knew, so we can start talking about how to build a client list and start to hit them. And I walked in with three names on a sheet of paper, and he walked in with a Rolodex with all these cards and a pad full of 600 names or something. And he says, do you want to buy some?
Wow.
I didn't know anyone in Adelaide. I had a brother here in Adelaide. I'm located on the Copper Coast, but it's so close.
Yeah.
But the reality was I knew no one in Adelaide, and there I was. So the early days was back to basics, reverse directory calling every day, door knocking every day, going to your shopping centre and making sure that you were badged up and front and centre and helping people and doing everything you could just to be noticed.
Do you remember your first sale?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I still remember my first listing.
Yeah.
Turned up to pick up my boss to go there, and he wanted to look over the shoulder and make sure I did it right. And he gave me a present for my first listing, and it was a packet of lucky socks, he called them. And at the time, I was very much a Phantom follower, still am. Loved the ethics and that of the Phantom, and they were bright purple with yellow caricatures all over the socks. Which was, he said, well, you're gonna have to put them on. So I changed them over and put them on, and we proceeded to arrive at the place in Mitchell Park in Adelaide. Got to the front door, and what's lined up at the front door? Shoes.
Mhm.
I've got to take my shoes off, and I've got the brightest iridescent socks on you can imagine.
Yeah,
And yeah, so out of courtesy, they said, no, you can leave your shoes on, which of course you can't. If everyone
yeah,
else is taking them off, you
yeah,
can't.
yeah.
So I took them off, and yeah, they thoroughly enjoyed the theatrics of it all. Yeah, yeah. But
That's fair.
keeping it real is something that's really an ethos. You are who you are.
Yeah,
I hear Bjorn often talk about being who you are and that sort of stuff, and I gel with that. I think you do need to be a bit of a chameleon at the same time. You need to relate to people, but still stay true to yourself. But you also still need to relate to people in ways that works with them.
yeah, yeah. Very, very good. Um, Tim, tell us a little bit how when you're doing 100 and plus sales a year,
Yeah,
how do you keep everything organized? Like coming from your electrical background, I suppose that
mm.
helps because
Yeah, process.
you can't just wing it when you're wiring up
No,
something.
no. You got to, there's always strategies and planning and that
Yeah,
sort of stuff. I've got a new term which sort of started during last year. You feel like you're
yeah,
juggling a lot of balls all at the same time.
yeah,
Over the years, I've referred to them as plate spinning, and you're always
yeah,
trying to catch that plate before it falls. I use a program called Airtable
yeah,
to monitor all of my transactions, and it's like having a massive whiteboard on the wall. And as things go through from prospective listings into under contract or online, to every step is mapped through with my Airtable, because physically you can't sleep. It was getting extraordinarily bad a couple of years ago, where I'd be going to bed and the head's still racing with the volume. And so I'd just waking up through the night, making notes, making more notes. And so getting hold of Airtable was a ground change for me, because I could then, at the late afternoon, early evening, I'll sit down and go through the whole table and go, okay, yes, I've got all these in place. Agent Box, which is sitting right here in front of me on my multiple screens, that lives and has tasks in that all the way through for every property. So I don't have to remember to do something. The task drops into place. You action on the day that it gets there, or you reassess it and forward date it to when, if things haven't fallen into place. So it's a constant, it's a constant stream of flow, which is substantial.
Were you always organized, or was that a skill you developed over time?
No, pretty well organized. It's just a matter of having. We had the 3x5 cards back when I started. We had all the basics. I had a book called my FISBO book for sale by owners that had cutouts of the paper, everyone that was selling, and notes against them. So I guess I've always been organised to a degree. I also think it's part of the joy of real estate is actually listening to people and working out what their true needs are, not what they're saying, but what's the underlying desire that they have. They might be saying one thing and heading in a totally different direction. And that skill was formulated through my days of working with programming, because people would say, yes, that's fine, we'll go forward with that. But there would be another 20 things that they'd expect that would be a benefit to them that they hadn't told you yet. And they just expect you to be a mind reader. Well, real estate's the same. Reading the body language, understanding that when you walk in and see a list of 3 or 4 other agents that have been in and left books, that maybe there's something else that's going on. Is there a desperate need? Are they about to lose their home? Meeting them where they're at is so really important.
Yeah, that you speak so well about that. Like
Mm.
it's some. I just had a discussion with one of our agents over here. We're talking about another brand where the agent tries to have all their branding about them and how amazing they are, and all that kind
Yeah,
of stuff. And I've totally missed the point about it's about the
it's all about
people.
the client. Everything's about the client. There was sitting in a big meeting. There would have been 80 agents in there, and a young fella asked a question of Phil Harris, and Phil's just looked. He didn't roll his eyes. He never does that. But he took the question, and then he scanned the room, and he's gone, Tim, young fella, you come and see Tim afterwards. Tim will give you the answer. I couldn't hear the question. It was from the
Yeah.
back of the room. And at the end of the meeting, we've all got up, and I've waited for this young buck to come up and have a chat. And no one's come up. So I've just headed off, and I'm heading down the corridor, and there's this young fella chasing after me with a group of older, more mature agents walking behind him. And he comes up and he said, look, I want to know how I get this, how I get that, how I get this. And it was the watch, the car, the this, the that. And I said, it's actually not about that at all. He said, what do you mean? I said, mate, it's you got to help enough other people. And when you've done that, you'll probably find out you don't really need the car, the watch, the. And he goes, oh, mate, you got no idea about real estate. I went, really? I said, mate, you need to actually wake up and smell the roses, because unless you service enough people, you're not going to go anywhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that was a reality, sadly.
Yeah.
Now, the guys that were standing behind him were all nodding in agreements, because you find out, and most things, our job in life is actually to continually sow seeds. We have opportunities to sow good things into people's lives. We might not get to water them,
Yeah.
and then a harvest comes. But we might not have created those seeds that got watered. We just get a harvest. We're thankful when the harvest comes, and we have opportunities to water others and encourage them along their journey. But our job is to continue to do the seeding and the watering, and the payback comes when it comes. We don't look for it. We don't give to get. We just keep giving, and the cycle of life allows us to take on a harvest at some times. Now, for me, EXP is a harvest, because I never expected to be where I am. I never expected to, given an opportunity like this presents, because traditional doesn't give you this opportunity.
Yeah.
At all.
And I think hearing that from someone that's working at your level is really good for those that are working at a different level to go, okay, wow, okay, a top performer goes, there's a real opportunity here. And
Huge.
if I can just apply myself,
Yeah.
help me understand how you, I mean, obviously you've been in the game a long time. You're
Mm.
organized, you built a network. I'm assuming you got a
Yeah.
database that you nurture on a regular basis and all that.
Yeah.
What role does that play in getting to 116 sales versus marketing branding, or how does that
Yeah.
work in your
So
context?
my numbers last year, I think I was running at about 82% referral.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
That means I'm not actively. I don't door knock. I don't look, if I'm simple. I go down to my chemist. I walk in. I'm standing there, and all of a sudden, the people that are in the line are talking about real estate. Right.
yeah,
The people behind the counter I've sold for. The people are saying, "Hey, have you seen?" And all of a sudden, there's this whole conversation, and other people who don't know I am are now asking questions, and I'm handing them a business card, and you walk out, and all of a sudden you're getting phone calls a week or 2 weeks later. Hey, I met you at the chemist, or I dropped in to see a gentleman was talking about selling a block of land, and one of the local farm supply companies. I've dropped in there, and as I've walked in, the owner says, "Oh, Tim, can you come straight out the back? Everyone's waiting." What do you mean, everyone? I walk around the back. All the employees are in. They're all there. They've all got questions about real estate. They want to know what's happening in the market. I mean, that's gold. Absolutely. This afternoon at 3:30, I'm at the local Harvest Christian College, meeting up with a group of students who are interested in real estate. And I've got an opinion on young people being in real estate who haven't tasted life yet. We can certainly come to that. But straight afterwards, the staff are having a staff meeting that I'm talking to the staff about real estate. Now, that's gold, but you can only do that if you've got the cred to do it. You've paid the price. You've looked after enough people that they respect that you're always going to try and give the best to everyone.
yeah. I titled this conversation "Building Your Legacy one property at a time."
Yeah.
How do you how do you feel for someone that's not where you are, but maybe has aspirations to get to 50% of where you are or 75% of where you are? Where should they start?
Mm. Each client you deal with is an opportunity to actually leave a mark. Everyone you look after, whether that's a buyer, a seller, someone who you don't get to sell for, someone you've done an appraisal at, that you contact them back and you genuinely wish them well with their sale, because you don't know where people are going to be coming from and who they know. They could go through a shocking experience and then be talking to someone else and said, well, you know what, I should have got Rob in. That's who I should have got.
Mm.
And then they go, well, why would you go? Well, Rob was really good, but he just priced it differently. Yeah, well, he wasn't the one that was buying it, was he? But he
Mm.
had really strong methods and his principles were what I wanted. Hey, are you selling? Yeah, I am. You should talk to Rob. Even though you didn't get the job, you have an opportunity to constantly sow seeds about who you are and what you stand for and what you do. That's all you can do. But you start with every single one, even getting back to buyers. My partner often says, look, no one else is going to take that time of 20 minutes or half an hour educating a buyer how to buy in the market. And the reality is they may not have bought from me and may never buy from me, but one day they might sell and they
Yeah.
might remember the person who gave them the tools and keys to actually buy, and they'll look upon me and go, hey, can you come in? But you only want the opportunity to be in the mix. You
Yeah.
don't need to be the number one. But if you're in the mix, you're given an opportunity. Okay.
Yeah.
When you've got an opportunity, well, then there you are.
Yeah. That's interesting. So you're in a quasi-rural portion
Yeah.
of
Regional
Australia.
centres.
Yeah,
Yep.
regional. What do you do in terms of marketing? Do you do any kind of marketing besides marketing the properties you're selling, or what do you do in that
Yeah.
regard?
It's interesting. I caught up with a guy that runs Wipey carpets yesterday, carpet cleaning, and we pulled over the side of the road. Normally, he spots my car. I've just done an upgrade and I haven't got my personalised plates on yet, nor any badging. So over the next 6 to 8 weeks, it'll all be rebadged and everything, because that's gold advertising in my book. um, but when I waved to him and he spotted me, we pulled over and had a chat, and he said that he was in I won't mention the town or the name, but he was in another town, and the agents at that town where he did some work and said, they referred to me as the selfie agent.
Uh,
Okay? Which is interesting because with every property I sell, on the day that a lot of them are, no one's there to actually take a photograph with. If they are there, 100%, I'm there, but I'm in the photo with them.
yeah,
Okay. And so to be the selfie agent, I had a laugh. I said, because do you know what? I don't actually promote them outside of my Facebook,
yes, yeah,
which means they're on my Facebook,
yeah,
which I think that's cool. So, so every single one that I do, I have a certain way that I do it. It goes on Facebook. So that's pretty well all that I've done. But if I go back, you go back pre-COVID, we had July 2019, we had 1,600 houses for sale in the whole Copper Coast.
yeah.
And now
Wow,
this morning I noticed we only have 62.
wow.
So pre-COVID, if you were listening with me, I would say, look, we have an opportunity to sell your property sometime in maybe the next 3 months to 3 years. It
Yeah,
depended on whether the right person walked in, liked what they found, and were prepared to go forward. Now, if you're in the market for 3 months, there's a problem with your property, because the reality is there's thousands of buyers and there's so few properties. But pre-COVID, I regularly ran specials through Facebook trying to promote to get the right listings, because it was all about getting the right ones that were motivated well enough, priced on point, everything else had to be right. Because otherwise you're carrying stock of 200 or 300 houses, and
it's just
how do you
draining.
communicate with 200 or 300 people? It's just,
That's
oh,
insanity.
it's insanity. It is insanity.
Yeah,
I know Bjorn and Chris talk about being in the market through the GFC. I was selling in the market at the start of the GFC. We hit 6,000 properties for sale.
Wow.
No one was
Wow.
buying, everyone was selling.
Yeah.
So after 6 months of no income, I said, that's it. Sayonara real estate. I jumped out. Of all things, I went into insulation sales, if you can
Yes.
believe it, which is a stupid area because that was after the debacle of the people getting killed fitting insulation in
Yeah.
roofs.
Yeah.
But I made really good money doing that because I turned up and I was hands on with people. But I also made all the calls to get the bookings. So, yeah, they sacked their call center after I made 20 calls and booked 10 appointments. They said, we don't need a call center anymore. We'll just get you, Tim. So, yeah.
What did you take? That's an interesting side diversion. I think a lot of people can relate. They might have had a side diversion. What did you learn doing that? And then how did you go back into real estate?
Well, I did that for a number of months until the company I was working with offered me to buy into the company for $1, which I thought, well, if there's anything that's a red flag, you don't buy in for $1. And discovered they had mountains of debt. And so I thought, yeah, no, I can't work for someone that's got no ethics. I'm out.
Yeah.
So then there was an opportunity. I went into Vitera, which is a grain handling organization. And my maintenance side of things, I handed all the maintenance for them for a couple of years. Sadly, my ex-wife had a mental breakdown. She left the family, and at that point, I vacated out and focused on raising my three kids who were little at the time. And unfortunately, I also had a mental breakdown myself and spiraled into a very dark, depressive state. Planned my own suicide, and yeah, that was a very dark period of time for a good 9, 12 months or so. And then a mate of mine who I'd worked in real estate before gave me a call and said, I know you're losing your house. So I went through bankruptcy, lost everything through that dark time. He was handling the sale of my house for me, but unfortunately the bank took it, so I never got to control that. He asked me if I'd go back into real estate with him. I didn't even know myself when I looked in the mirror. So to the idea of being in real estate, dealing with people was, the last thing I wanted. Being around people, I didn't even want to be around myself. So I turned up one Saturday down at the Dunes in Port Hughes, the Greg Norman golf course. We started chatting about real estate, and a guy walked in and had a chat with Craig. And as he walked out, Craig just said, "Oh, Tim will drop through this afternoon." Yeah, I didn't want to drop through in the afternoon. Yeah, so I dropped in around the corner and caught up with what became extraordinary good friends. But I met up with his wife. She walked around the house and explained how she had to have the house sold. I came back that evening to sit down with the husband. And that's where I first discovered that husbands and wives don't agree. He was in an entirely different place there. So I was, not that she set me up, she was completely honest. And he was completely honest to the point where I can remember looking down the hallway and working out where the front door was. And he just said, yeah, that's the way you should go. And I won't want you back.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that was the first time where I suddenly felt, you get that, no, I don't give up. I don't quit. I don't. And I looked him in the eyes and said, look, I'm totally unprepared for you today. And he said, damn straight. And I went, right, I'd like to come back. And his wife's standing behind him going, no, you don't come back. And I said, can I meet up with you tomorrow night? And he said, yeah, 7 o'clock. I said, I'll be here. I'll have all my facts and numbers and everything. I said, I've literally come from the Dunes to see you. And he said, no, respect that, but you better have something proper this time because you're unimpressive today. I went, thank you.
Thank
And I
you.
left. And I phoned Craig up and I said, you're not going to believe it. This is what he said. He literally shredded me. And he said, mate, you don't go back. I said, go back. Of course I'm going back. I'm on the horse.
Yeah.
I haven't felt this alive in so long. And I still credit that guy. And I've done probably 7 or 8 sales for him. I don't know how many referrals he's referred to me. He lives in Queensland. He's still sending work with friends and relatives through the area to me. I credit him as putting me back on the level playing field. I found myself again, and I thank Craig for giving me the opportunity to join him. He saw what I used to do. I couldn't remember that,
Yeah.
but it's amazing. And this is, I guess, where I see young people who haven't experienced life. You need to lean on people, and we've got a kaleidoscope of people in EXP that you can draw experiences from and sound people out on and talk to find out what's life really like, because you've only got to scratch the surface. Life's not easy for so many people, and if you've had some pain and you've had some damage, I don't recommend people that are young go straight into real estate. They need to go into hospitality and deal with people and be treated like crap and hurt and wounded and taste some stuff. I mean, I lost the house, I lost a marriage, lost all my savings. I was left with one basic car, and then come out the other side and going, that's it. I'm celibate. Now I've got a beautiful lady that calls me a man. Couldn't be happier. I've got a stepdaughter that's part of my family that I treasure. My kids are still with me. Life is extremely challenging, and it continues to be, but it's extremely rewarding, because if you know where you've been and you know where you are, life is entirely different.
I think what you're talking about is just the real stuff.
Yeah,
It's one thing in our industry, and we touched on this before, but there's the gloss
yeah,
of our industry and the great cars, the watches, the shiny
yeah,
suits, or whatever
yeah,
is supposed to be. And then there's the real world
yeah.
that people don't often talk about.
Walking in and sitting with a client in North Beach a few years ago, and which is part of Wallaroo, and we're chatting. I present him a contract, and the contract's nothing like we'd planned. It was not even remotely close. And he said, "Look," and I've got it face down on it. I said, "Look, all I need you to do is tell me to go and do my job, and I'll get out there." And he said, "Give it to me." I handed it over to him. He's read through it. He looks at his wife and says, "Get me a pen." I went, no. This isn't the way it's to be done. He said, "Tim, you have no idea. This is clean. It's this, it's that." And he said, "It's exactly on the money that we need." He said, "I've got 3 weeks to live."
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, they said, "Whatever you don't cry, Tim. You don't cry." I said, "No." I said, "But can you please?" And he went, I said, "I could get another 40 or 50. Just let me make a phone call." And he's signing the contract. All he can see is he's putting everything in place to support his wife of 50 years and making sure everything's done so that on the other side of it, there's no hiccups. They're moments that stay with you.
Yeah.
Because they're real.
They're real. And I think as an agent, if you get in early like you did and you go through and you get bumped around a lot, you work out pretty quickly that it's not all about the gloss. It's about the how can I help somebody? How can I actually help
I was in
somebody?
my late 20s when I started. I was 28. I'm 58 now.
Yeah. And life has changed.
No, great, vastly. You go back 3 years ago when we bought this place. It was a modest home. We've modified it to match up with what we wanted. We were going to sell our caravan because we needed to fund more stuff, and my mum passed away and through COVID, and right at the end of it, she's left a small sum for all of us. I mean, there's your mum giving you her entire life, and she gives again at the other end, and that was too much for me, and so we kept the caravan because it was the exact same amount of money that we were going to get for the van, and we say thank you to mum every time we get to drive the van.
Yeah.
Be thankful for the small things, because it's in the small things that the quality of life is found.
Fantastic, mate. Thank you so much for sharing, taking time out of your schedule. I want to get you back again to talk a little bit more about the
Yeah.
nuts and bolts, but what you've covered here in the last 10 minutes is just so, so important.
Mm.
And this is called the AMP session or the Agent Mentor Program, and this has been fantastic agent mentoring. Uh, Keeping it about the people, keeping it real. Tim, any final thoughts you'd like to share on this particular time you're here?
Yeah, look, I spoke to a fellow industry agent, as Chris refers to them. Great guy, by the way. I appreciated the transition and the process coming into EXP. The management, unbelievable. Kirsten, Rachel, and the team behind. I really appreciated the fact that Harris, who I had been with for 10 years, respected my journey with them, that I'd always put them first all the way through. And they allowed me to transition and take a dozen or so properties with me. But we gave all the clients the opportunity to either stay with Harris or come with me. The transition was challenging because I was moving with volume. The whole idea was to come in and learn the ropes. There was no learn the ropes. You're on the horse well and truly, and the whip's going. And yeah, so that was July 1. So I'll cap, I think, in about 10 days' time.
That's amazing.
So that's great. The transition, I spoke to an industry agent yesterday who had a couple of questions about different things, because we've just come across a mutual client, and the mutual client said, you need to talk to Tim. Tim's doing things differently. And so she's rung me, and we had a good chat, and a really straightforward exchange. And I said, look, bottom line is you're sitting in with a percentage of, and she went, yes, yeah, that's, and I said, and I'm at, and she went, oh, and I said, and in 10 days' time, I'll be, oh, how does that work? And I said, well, it does. And these are the pros and cons of it.
Yeah.
I said, there's not too many cons. There's a heck of a lot of pros.
Yeah.
I said, so in the scheme of things, I think some people need to understand that EXP in my book is a gift. We need to acknowledge it that way, and treat everyone as being fellow, as we say, fellow collaborators. That support that we have the opportunity to do within this industry, instead of looking at everyone as opposition, but as everyone as co-journeyers in this opportunity we've got, not just changing our lives, but changing the lives of those that are around us. It's an extraordinary gift.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Everybody, you've met Tim Hosking. Thank you so much, Tim. And we're going to get you back. The applause, the air applause that you can't see maybe are
Yeah,
strong. Thank you so much, Tim.
my
And
pleasure.
we will definitely have you back as a guest on AMP again.
Right. All the best. Wish you well.